Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Good evening and welcome to Satsang with John David. We are just in the beginning of a wonderful 3 days Whitsun retreat, and there are still places available, so if you spontaneously want to change your plans, you're very welcome to come and join. And the next possibilities to meet John David would be there are 2 summer retreats. One is in Ukraine, in our community in Tripelia, which is from the 20th July to the 4th of August. Or you can come to our summer retreat in Spain, in Denia. It's just our community there. It's just 2 minutes away from the Mediterranean. And there the retreat is from the 16th of August to the 1st of September. And more information about John David you find on the website johndavidsatsang.international. And you can also come and meet the community. So we have an open day in July, which is from the 12th to the 14th of July. And the weekend is for free. We have wonderful creative workshops like dancing, singing, drumming, and wonderful stuff. And yeah, it's for free and you're very welcome. Also, you can come as a guest or as a volunteer. You're always welcome. We invite you to stay for a week to just come and play and work along with the community. More information about that you find on our website www.openskyhouse.international. And you can also join us tonight in the live meeting. You can connect us via Skype. The Skype address is Meeting John David. So have a nice evening.
Welcome to SatTV. So we're going to have some fun tonight because I'm starting with jokes. Very funny jokes, I hope. Maybe not. Three guys are stranded on a desert island, and they find a magic lantern containing a genie who grants them each one wish. The first guy wishes he was off the island and back home. The second guy wishes the same. The third guy says, "I'm lonely. I wish my friends were back." A Briton, a Frenchman, and a Russian are viewing a painting of Adam and Eve frolicking in the Garden of Eden. "Look at their reserve, their calm," muses the British. "They must be British." "Nonsense," the Frenchman disagrees. "They're naked and so beautiful. Clearly they are French." No way. They have no clothes, no shelter," the Russian points out, "and they only have an apple to eat. And they are being told they live in paradise. Obviously, they're Russian." A man, late for an important meeting, was searching desperately for a parking spot in a crowded street. Looking up to the sky, he screamed, "Lord, if you find me a parking spot, I promise to start going to church again." The words were barely out of his mouth when a spot opened up right in front of him. The man looked back up. "Never mind, I found one." Well, so it's a very nice moment at the beginning of a retreat, because very often only my friends are here. And of course, my friends have heard me saying everything many times. And so it's all a bit boring, actually. But when we have guests, and we have so many guests tonight, it becomes very exciting because it's like everything is new again. And anyway, I know that my friends don't really understand also, but they've been here so long, they feel they can't ask any good questions anymore. So then all the questions are up to the guests. But before you start asking your many questions, I would like to take this moment to, maybe I'm going to unfold a bit, what the weekend is really all about. And of course, you know that already, basically, otherwise you probably wouldn't have come here. But anyway, so one of the big words which I was very much hooked on when I was younger is this word enlightenment. And, we get very excited about the idea that, we can change this kind of busy, confused, chaotic, always thinking person into some completely new model, which we can call enlightened. And this is a very nice idea, of course, but it's not really true. So basically, the model that you are right now is going to be the model you're going to continue with, you see. It's not really going to change. It's not really going to change. And any idea you have of, sort of transforming into some wonderful human being, which you don't think you are at the moment, unfortunately, that's also not going to happen, probably. A bit, maybe. So then you might ask, well, then what the hell am I doing here? So the way I see this situation is that we have something which I call the true self, the true self. You can call it also the being. You can call it the soul. There's already 3 words which are used a lot here in the West. And in India, they tend to call it the self. So these kind of words are pointing to some part of this organism, and this part is where we want to live. We want to live out of this part. And in fact, we are living out of this part. It's just natural. It's just normal and natural. And although you might want to be somebody who's very mindy, even though you may be very mindy, you're still basically living out of this wonderful part. And amazingly, this wonderful part is common, you see. It doesn't have different names on it. So this common part, we can call our true nature, is actually the true nature of everybody. Not just everybody here, but everybody else too. Millions of billions of similar true natures or beings. And in this way, it's very easy then to say something like, we're all one, which is true actually.
I'm not sure I understand.
These iPhones are really amazing. Anyway, so actually this is very beautiful because we're always having, well, we're not all always, but anyway, John David, when he was younger, had the idea that this thing would be coming to him from the outside, possibly from my master. In fact, I thought probably it would come from him. He would kind of give it to me when I was a good enough English boy. But of course, I was never quite good enough, so it never really happened. Yeah? But of course, the master can be important because there's a sort of energy phenomena that can happen between us and that person who is already living from his true nature. So there is some advantage of that, but for sure it doesn't in any way come. And even if he would like it to come to you, he can't make it come to you. So actually, all the cards are inside your own pocket, you see. Which is, in the beginning you might feel, well, that's a pity because I'm not good enough, so probably I'll never get them out. Or you can see it as really wonderful because it means all the power, you already have it, you see. And in fact, what I would personally say about all that is that if you have the priority. The other day I got an email from somebody in America who has this enormous priority. And basically she told me that, well, I made some mistakes and I've got 3 children and they're all wonderful, but still it's not what I really want. And I've really wanted this since I was very young. What can I do? And so this priority, a deep inner feeling that we want to come home. It's like coming home. You know when you've been out in the city shopping or visiting friends or going to a party, it's all very nice, it's all very exciting. And then at some point it's enough. And then you have this feeling of, I like to go home. And home is some kind of very comfortable, relaxed, easy place where you can just be who you are, something like that. And so, of course, the true home is inside us. It's not about the bricks and the decorations in the garden or something. It's nothing about what you might put on the wall. It's all about inside. Okay, so for me, home is inside. And of course, home is this true nature. And of course, we often feel this very strongly at night, because every night there is this, it's a habit, but it's more than a habit, I think. I think we generally look forward to that moment when we can close our eyes and fall into a deep sleep. And, maybe we have some dreams in the beginning, but after some time we fall into a kind of total goneness. And this goneness is actually equaling this self or true nature. So we fall into this true nature every night. I remember one of my spiritual friends used to say, the fastest way to become enlightened is close your eyes and go to sleep. Right there, right there. So if what I'm saying is really true, then why don't we really have contact to that? Why don't we have really active contact to that? And for most of us, it's because we've been conditioned over the years of growing up from when we were a child. Slowly, we didn't particularly perceive what was happening to us, but we somehow came into a kind of movie. This is the movie of my life. And we very much identify with that movie. This is me, and my name is John. You see? This is John's life. Mine, my life. And so without realizing, we get into all kinds of patterns of behavior. We get into all kinds of, Vishnu's a special guy. Don't worry, he won't explode, even though he looks as if he might at any moment. He usually does such a performance when he comes into this room. But he was here the other night, and I was afraid that his head was going to jump out of its socket. But in fact, as you see, he's still here tonight with his head on, so don't worry too much about him. Yeah. So somehow, the way I see it is that if you look up into the sky on a normal, well, probably not a normal German day actually, because in the normal German day it's nearly always cloudy. But in those kind of days, where you can see some blueness and you can see the clouds a bit less dominating, just here and there, some clouds floating in the beautiful blue sky, I would see this as a kind of good metaphor, so that the blueness, which we know is always there, even though we don't see it very often here in Germany, and of course we've got a community now in Spain, and there you see it too much in the summer. It's always blue, it gets a bit, well, if you come from Germany anyway, it gets a bit... So this blueness, we can consider this blueness as our true nature. And the clouds are flowing across, blocking our contact to this blueness. Yeah? And these clouds, of course, are mostly our thoughts. They can be our emotional thoughts, but mostly they're our mental thoughts. And for most of us, this is running pretty much all the time. When we start meditation, it starts to get less than all the time. And A lot of you sitting here have had moments when, if you like, the clouds parted, even long enough that you could look through and discover that you actually were very much in contact with your true nature. And very often, especially when it happens for the first time, there's a very strong energy released. It's like, phew, all the stones in the river have somehow been cleared away and the water is flowing very fast. Nothing to block the flow of the river. So we often experience very strong energy phenomena. And like our friend here, we can often feel that shaking the body. And if we're really, really lucky and we've done some kind of preparation, then this shaking actually opens up something. And so we have a taste of our true nature. We feel immensely peaceful. We feel immensely expanded. We feel ourselves, if you like, out of our natural box, out of our natural limit. We feel ourselves in an infinite space. And if you're particularly lucky, you can feel an enormous love. This word love is, of course, a very difficult word, and I'm not talking about I love you kind of love, but something very, very fundamental, which happens sometimes, and of course we would like it to happen more times. And so the possibility is that by working on clearing up the clouds, we find ourselves expanding into the blueness. The more blueness and less clouds. So it's as if we're moving from living in Germany to living in Spain or Portugal, you see. Yeah. But of course, when I'm teaching in Spain, I have to find something else to say because... Yeah. Yeah. So actually it's very simple, you know. It's not really, not too complicated, and you don't need too many of those books, you know, full of all kind of stuff that you can't understand. It's not really needed. It's not really needed. It's pretty simple. And unfortunately, many of us think it's complicated. We think it's special, and only if you're very... you know all the what do they call them? I don't know, I've forgotten. Anyway, you might think you need to understand all the spiritual texts, for example. I remember once meeting a professor of Oriental Studies. It was in Leipzig, in Eastern Germany, and she told me in the first meeting, she told me how she'd gone to study Sanskrit because she wanted to be able to read all the spiritual texts. And then she became gradually a professor. She was teaching all these things. And she came to one of my meetings a bit like this. And at some point, in a very honest way, she told me, well, I never had any experience. So all my learning hasn't given me an experience. And I said to her, well, you know, you're probably very busy, but if you can come tomorrow for about an hour and a half, we can see about that. And she turned up the next day. We sat in an empty room, and fairly quickly, I would say, she was having tears running down her cheeks. And there was a sort of shift in the energy, and I could sense that she was in contact with something deep inside her. And then her mobile phone rang. No problem, actually. But unfortunately, she said, oh, I'm sorry, that's my phone. And then, you know, she's back here, you know, back out, you can say. So in a way, the intention of this weekend is to create situations where we can be relaxed enough to welcome this other part of us, which we don't always welcome. And this could also be called our eternal friend. I rather like this way of talking about it, that we have a friend who's very, very close, hence eternal, very, very patient. And this is almost like a shadow which walks along with us. But unfortunately, we're always busy over there, and we almost never have time to turn to our eternal friend. I rather like this idea. Maybe you like it or you don't like it. But so, I mean, what we're looking for is very close. We're not separate from that. This is our essence. I think it's a quote from Buddha. He said something like, there are only two ways to miss. One is not to start the journey, and the other is to give up. This seems to me to be absolutely true. You have to persevere. And of course, some of those clouds are not so comfortable clouds, because in some of those clouds can be things that happen to us perhaps when we're very small, things that we don't even quite know about, but maybe we have some sense that there's something inside us which brings us constant anguish. We can call this a trauma. It's a bit stronger than just some patterns. And of course, that is not always something we want to expose. Yeah. We may not want to expose that. Maybe we've been trying our whole life not to expose it. But of course, it's then working inside us very strongly. So this work, in a way, you can say, is not necessarily always easy. It's not always bringing ecstasy. It's not always bringing love. It can also bring tremendous fear and tremendous pain even. But unfortunately, if we want to get free of all this, then this has to be healed. And therefore, we need to heal it ourselves, maybe sometimes with support from a third person. We need to heal this by becoming very self-aware. We need to become our own kind of detective who's able to look and see what is happening inside without a judgment, without us being at the same time the judge. Because it's also very easy to start looking and then becoming the judge, even the high court judge, even the great judge. And then we give ourselves very difficult time, because of course if you start to judge yourself, you're never going to be okay. You're always going to find all kind of reasons why everybody else understands and I don't understand. Everybody else is all right and I'm not all right, and so on and so on and so on. This is just natural for the mind, you could say. So we have to be very careful to do any judgment. It doesn't help us at all, actually. But what we need to do is to be self-aware. We need to use our very powerful awareness to see what's happening and to understand what's happening sometimes by going back, and therefore to bring some qualities like a detective. And this is something which most of us can easily do for our best friend, somebody else. It's not so difficult to sit in a coffee shop and help your friend to see this and that and the other. But coming to ourselves, it's not so easy to be as dispassionate about looking, because very often some emotions are there. And unfortunately, human beings have piles of negative emotions. And so we have to come through all that to find the qualities which we are actually gifted, you could say, gifted qualities, as everybody has. So I'd like to invite somebody to come and talk to me. If you don't understand very much, that would be perfect. Then you'll have a lot of questions. But if you already understand a lot, you might have some little question, in the back somewhere where we can get into a dialogue. Or you can just decide to come because why not? And then something will happen spontaneously, of course. So yesterday you were doing your normal job, visiting bookshops or such things, and you were driving your car, and you were functioning quite well, I guess. Yeah? And on Wednesday evening you were here, and you were shaking so much that I was actually a bit worried your head would fall off. It was very powerful shakes. Yeah? And tonight, how is it tonight? It's good. Well, I think it's good you're telling everybody that, because the one or two people are getting a bit excited about you. He's been doing this for at least a year, maybe a bit longer, so you don't have to worry about him. Oh! Wow. Okay. Now I'm going to start shaking. But it's very interesting, you see, that when you come into this true self, when you really come home, basically there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. I'm sure he's in a very nice, beautiful space tonight, and it's so nice that you can't even be bothered to say it's very nice. You don't even care if anybody knows it's very nice. You don't have to impress anybody. In fact, it's very interesting that when you come to this true nature and you're really there in it, and it's very, very nice, often you don't even look like you're having a good time. I remember my spiritual teacher, Papaji, he used to come into the meetings, these kind of meetings every morning, and often he looked completely pissed off, you see. And then 10 minutes later, the whole place was, falling on the floor, laughing so much. We've been told that we should smile, I remember my sister years ago in a hospital. She just gave birth, and my mother was there, and I came there, and we all stood there, and the idea was a photo. There should be a photo, photo. And then my mother was like talking to this little baby, 3 days old or something, and this baby was supposed to smile for the camera, of course. Yeah. So we've been told to smile, or even laugh, be happy. Why can't you be unhappy, actually? Why can't you be... All the things that we can experience seem to me to be okay. They're all coming to us naturally. Why we're trying to spend all our time to become happy? We can also be sometimes angry or sometimes sad. Why not? You want to come? Yeah. Good. I don't know anything about you at all, so that's very good. I don't even know your name. Maybe you tell us your name.
My name is Stefan.
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 A little bit closer, yeah.
Closer,
Yeah.
okay.
Actually, the only thing I know about you is you liked our dinner tonight. You liked the dinner tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stefan, okay. Yeah. And how are you here? How did you come to be here?
How?
Yes, do you know some of these people?
No,
or?
I read your books.
You read my book?
And saw some films.
Ah, you saw the film, yeah. Good.
Yes.
And what touched you, do you think, about those films? What was it that touched you to bring you here? Because something must have touched you, yeah? Because somehow, maybe it's taken a year or two, but something's been working inside, and now you're here.
It's difficult to bring it to the point. I think a lot of things touched me in your books, especially the last book. I really liked a lot of things in it.
Is that the
I
Pointless
can't
Joy?
remember.
The Pointless Joy book.
The?
Pointless Joy of Freedom.
Yes.
Right.
So I know you bring people into a process. That's maybe one point which is for me interesting, or which I feel attracted to.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe my question is, you said some things before. I had some encounters with this nothing, at least every night, as you said.
Right.
And once I had a happening where I felt, how do you say, I lost my consciousness. I was doing some sports, judo, and someone closed or made a barrier for the blood to go to the brain, and I couldn't move. I couldn't stop him by showing I'm finished. Normally,
so
you make this, and then he knows he won, I lost. Okay, it's finished.
So you had a near-death experience.
Yes, yes, I really had, and I couldn't move. And the very interesting thing was, the ego was away.
Right.
I just saw what's happening. Everything was okay.
Right.
Even if I would have died, okay, no problem.
Right.
But then the awareness, I would call it awareness, was there, just watching what happens without judgment. The judgment was just the brain, it couldn't work anymore.
Right.
But then the awareness also disappeared.
Oh yeah.
And I know nothing what happens between this time when this awareness was gone and when I came back. It's just black hole. So that's a bit my question. You also said it's this nothingness. How can I be in contact with this nothingness? Because in this experience there was no awareness, there was no, maybe I can't remember, but I can't be in contact with this.
The brain wasn't able to function because it had too less blood, which meant it had too less oxygen, probably.
Yes.
Yeah? And so you can experience that as passing out, becoming unconscious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have some kind of spiritual glimpse, we don't become unconscious, but we come to a similar kind of nothing that you're describing. You said, well, I lost even the awareness, and then there was just blackness. But who's aware of the blackness? Maybe it was in fact whiteness. You don't know, yeah, because you said you were unconscious. So
maybe
it might have been whiteness, or pinkness, or blackness. You can't know that, yeah. But when we consciously come to nothing, you could say it's a kind of shining blackness, but not an unfriendly kind of blackness. Because the word black is already something which we use towards talking about death, maybe. Yeah? So it's not the blackness of death, or at least it's not the blackness of the death we imagine when we use this word black. But actually it's I've forgotten the word that I use now, but something like a luminous, shining blackness, which feels very inviting, feels very attractive. But also there's nothing happening there. But we're aware that nothing's happening there. And if this continues, then the awareness somehow melts into the nothing. And so it's not like I am aware of the nothing, it's just nothing. And so maybe that's what happened, but it sounds like it probably didn't happen like that. It sounds like it was loss of oxygen. So it's not to become unconscious, if you like, it's to become superconscious.
I just wondered, when I die, this brain also stops working, and then it will be the same as I experienced there. What will stay when I die? So my experience is nothing, really nothing.
Yeah.
Also, not awareness also disappears.
Right. Well, I have slightly different experience about that because, as I say, I've become very friendly with this luminous, shiny blackness, where also there's nothing happening. And it could well be at death. I haven't experienced it yet, but it could be at death, that is our eternal self, true self, and this is able to move away from the physical body, which is not functioning anymore. Yeah? The blood is not moving, the oxygen is not coming to the brain can't function. But it can be that there is something which has been described as a kind of well, I can't actually remember how it's been described in books about near-death experiences, but basically the words that I've been using are also words that can be used to describe, and it's almost like we lift out of the physical body. And we've got one or two people here who have a good memory of actually leaving their body, but not going on, but coming back in their body. So they have an experience of being out of their body for some time and then coming back in the body. So this is not exactly death. This might be a near-death experience, or it might just be an experience of leaving the body. I remember years ago when I was actively meditating, I was doing Sufi whirling. So you put your hands out and you move around and gradually go faster and faster, spin around pretty fast. And the person looking after us, there was a big group of people doing it, so there was lots of somehow energy. She came and stood next to me, and suddenly she put her hands on my waist, like clamping. And I remember I spun out of my body. It was very strange. And I ended up with my feet on top of my head, and I was kind of up there. And I was sort of aware that, I was very high. And it felt like, as I say, that like my head, I was standing on my head. And then at some moment, this is probably a very short moment really, I just came back in the body. Probably nobody would have noticed anything happened really. But it was a wonderful moment to experience being out of the body. And of course, those little experiences, which maybe a lot of people here have had, kind of shake our idea about ourselves, yeah? Because we are conditioned to have certain ideas, and one of the ideas is probably not that we can leave our body and come back to our body. Although there may be some people sitting here who are quite familiar with that, they regularly leave their body. That's not my own experience, but it's some people's experience. Yeah?
Okay. So the one is this, my experience of nothing, really nothing. And the other experience is, even when you talked, when I was sitting there, this feeling of expansion and some kind of feeling from the heart, love. I know this too, but I don't bring these two together. There's some separate. So maybe I'm missing a connection, some sort of connection.
Which two things you don't bring together? The heart.
This opening
of the heart.
It's also like flowing energy. It's like vastness, love. I know this too.
Right.
So what is the self? How can I recognize the self? That's the question.
Well, I think you can recognize the self in all those words you've been using, including the nothing, including the blackness. It's all pointing to something which we can call the self.
It's pointing to.
For what?
It's pointing to something. It's not this.
Well, yeah, all these words, yeah. We use the word love or expansion or blackness or nothingness, and somehow they're all pointing to something which we don't quite know what this animal, we're trying to describe this animal, and we don't know quite, how big the ears are, so we can say it's like this and like that, And of course, it's very hard to describe it. to somebody who doesn't know it. But if you know it, because we've had an experience of it, we exactly know it. And probably many, if not almost everybody sitting here, has had some short moment at least, and therefore they're sitting here basically because they know it, and they would like it to be around more often, like always. Yeah. And therefore we come to these kind of weekends because we hope that that will, move us a bit closer to that. And as I said before, I think it's perfectly possible. It's not really difficult. But we have to be ready to go on some kind of inner journey, and also for it to be a priority in our lives. Because it's actually an enormous effort or enormous work. I don't like to use the word work because, we have some ideas about that. But we really need to do an inner work. And this inner work is not for just something you can do, for a few minutes occasionally when you think about it. It requires really a lot of effort if you want to clear up everything and live in this freedom. So I think maybe people don't always realize how much priority it needs to be. I mean, I never planned it in my own life, yeah? But it turned out that almost for my whole life, I guess, it's become the biggest priority. I mean, 90% every day is the priority of that. Yeah? Since years, I'm very old now, so it's since years the priority. I fell into it. I didn't really plan it because anyway, I didn't know anything about it. I'd never meditated until I was 30 years old. So, I was pretty, I was very stupid actually. I thought I was quite clever, but actually I was very stupid. And, and gradually, maybe not so gradually even, because somehow I had some sort of little seed, like a little seed inside me. And somehow this seed just wanted to grow, and it's like I think it's a cuckoo seed. And it took over, it sort of took me over. Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel that? Do you feel this priority inside you?
Somehow
you know
yes,
what I mean?
Somehow yes, but the other side, when I look at my life, maybe I have too much distraction.
Do you? Yeah.
But there is some plant inside which is
Growing.
some seed which is wanting to grow or to.
Right.
Was always there. At the beginning, I didn't realize. But when I look back, it was always there. I didn't choose it. It was just there.
Right. And you can't ever really escape it.
Yes.
You can only kind of postpone it.
Yes.
And the society gives us various ways of postponing, yeah? We can... 5 children maybe. Tough job, a wife and 5 children, something like that. No. 2 wives?
No.
No? Okay.
It's just the mind.
Just your mind. Well, that already makes it a bit easier because you can't just get rid of the kids and the wives, so. Yeah.
Okay, I will see.
Good. what is this flower called? It's very beautiful, yeah? Anybody know in English? Peona? Yeah. This is a pink one and this is a white one. Huh? Winter rose. Whitsun rose. Ah. I see. It only shows up at Whitsun. Ah. Okay. We've got fantastic flowers. Yeah. Beautiful rose also here. Yeah. They're from your garden? Oh. Wow. I was actually looking and thinking, well, is that a real color or somebody put dye in it, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very rare sorts of roses. And I
Yeah.
collect them.
Like, they're like old roses, are they?
Yes.
Wow.
Some ones are very old.
Yeah. Great. Wow. Yeah, it's very interesting, this seed, you know. You have this seed and then somehow this seed also meets another seed, you know, you know, and then things start getting a bit kind of So we met about 1 year ago now, yeah, almost exactly 1 year ago. Yeah, we met having a cup of tea just before my meeting one evening, and he spent a long time telling me that actually he's only interested in Russian teachers. And it was very interesting because as he was saying that, inside I already thought, that's not right. That's not right. He thought it was right, but my intuition told me, no, that's not right. Yeah. So,
I also had intuition, probably.
yeah?
I had feelings that I will meet someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking for, unconsciously I was doing this. I didn't know that I was looking for a teacher, probably, but I knew that I will meet somebody who will, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and the seed was very strong.
Yeah.
Kind of. At some point you give up. I mean, you give up all you're kind of desperate, yeah? You give up all your ideas, all your ego, like you did all what you can, but somehow you go to some
Get to some point.
yeah, and you just give up and just not my will, yeah. And then you meet someone.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how this happens, yeah, that when you're apparently not making any effort anymore, somehow existence knows that you've come to some special moment, and then, as you say, there's some kind of meeting happens.
Very nice movie.
Yeah, you were telling me about Pasha. He's coming through from St. Petersburg, I think.
Yes, this is the guy.
Right.
Want to talk?
Yeah, you can stay there, you know,
Yeah.
you can help me. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Pasha, you'd like to come through? Here he is. Pasha.
Hello.
Wow, that's very nice.
Yes.
We can hear you very well. We don't see you. Do you have a video camera? Ah, okay. Now we can. Can you turn the light maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
We only see you in shadows now. Oh, that's getting better. Bit more light.
Yeah.
Okay, that's better. Yeah, now I can recognize you. Yeah, yeah. And you're in St. Petersburg, I was told.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Little bit.
Okay, but you've been living in America, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, a little. So right now I'm between India.
Are you been in India? You're coming from India?
Yes, I come from India and I want to go to India again. And I'm just in the middle right now, and I'm thinking where to go now.
Right, right. Is
So
that
I
what?
remember about Tripolia.
Huh?
So I remember about the Tripolia community.
Tripila, he's remember
And I
about
think maybe
Tripila.
I can go there.
Ah, yes, yes. You come now, on Sunday. You're coming, yeah. Of course, welcome. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I've just been talking to Shiva, who is the manager there. He's come here for about a week. So he won't be there when you come on Sunday, but he's coming with me on Wednesday. Wednesday we'll be there. But there's some other people are there. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. You know, you may have to think about the border, you know? The Ukrainians are not so happy about Russians, especially young men.
Yes.
Have you got an American passport or Russian passport? Russian. You'll have to. You might have to. You might have to wear a skirt. Get a blonde wig, you know, blonde wig and a skirt, you know, something like this, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do that in night duty.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, it could be that they have a few questions for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
Anyway, if you get through the border, we'll see you soon.
Perfect.
Very good. Yeah. Have you been back to Tuli Baba's ashram?
I think one time, well, I don't remember. No.
No, you haven't. Okay. You've been to Goa?
No.
No? Oh.
No. Never.
Never.
No.
Right. Only spiritual places.
Yeah, but I'm planning to go to Goa.
Everybody goes to Goa sometime, you know. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope I will see you, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be there next week on Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You're looking good, actually. Is that right? You feel good?
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah.
Most of the time, but maybe not in St. Petersburg so much.
Yeah, but I'm not working, so I'm pretty good, yeah.
I'm not working.
Oh, you're not working. Okay, that makes it a bit easier. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay, anyway, very nice that you came through, and we'll see you. I'll be there next week, and I'm there for 1 week, so we have time. You can tell us, yeah. Okay, good, good.
See you.
Pasha,
See you,
good,
everybody.
good name. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I hope he gets into Ukraine. It might be a bit difficult.
Let's see.
I think is he still online, or we're just... Oh. Ah, okay. Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. We don't have anything to talk about. It's really terrible. We can only smile like two kind of odd couple. An odd right. Okay.
Okay.
You have to watch out. He might start shaking. Very good. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
It's not so much time, but I want to.
Well, we have enough time, whatever
Okay.
it takes.
Okay, yeah. I want to tell a little thing
Yeah.
that I perceive.
Right.
I was here sometimes to be in the satsang, and the rest of the satsangs I look on. On
TV
YouTube.
Or, yeah.
Okay, and it is different. It's another energy when I am at home.
Right.
I can hear what you say and what he is saying, and it touched, and it's for the heart and for the brain. But when I'm here, I feel a tremendous magic energy of love.
Right.
And it comes in so over me, and then it's a little bit
Becomes a bit calmer.
calmer,
and
and then
maybe.
it's a wonderful feeling to be here. And that's what I want to tell.
Yeah, but this is very beautiful because in a way it's the most important thing you can say. And you may know that we've had this community here for 15 years. And I would say almost in the beginning, when the house was pretty empty, there was already a strong energy in this house, in this place. But of course, over 15 years, maybe 150 people have lived here. Probably hundreds of guests or volunteers have come for a short time. And in a way, everybody who comes leaves little presents, you know. Maybe they leave a little bit of love here or a little bit of love there. You know, they paint the door, whatever it is, you know. So there's all these presents that have been kind of adding up over the years. So now you can say, you know, that it's now a strong energy field, I think. And some people, even who are coming maybe for the guest house, or somebody's coming to see the art gallery, sometimes they tell us they feel something here. They're not quite sure what it is, but they feel a bit touched from something. And it's very interesting because, of course, it doesn't need very much to open up something, you know. So, of course, I'm very happy about that, about this kind of energy field that's developed here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I think
special.
this is very, very supportive,
Yes.
particularly if you're looking inside at some not so good bits where you really need support, you know, where there needs to be some kind of encouragement, some kind of feeling of caringness and so on. And I think that happens here. So that's, in a retreat like that's a great help actually for everybody to feel that kind of support.
Yes. I had read this book about the Enneagram.
Right.
And there they say something about the bad feelings inside of everyone. And in my life, I learned these bad things are there, and I must go out of that. I must go to the good things and don't touch the bad things.
Right.
And after I read this book, I felt that the right way is through and not up
away
from it.
Yeah.
It feels like I was a rocket, and I need more and more energy. Don't get to these bad things, and
But
I
to
must
shoot out.
and more to go to the good things and not to the bad. And
Right.
beyond the bad things, there's something that pulls. And in this book, they say, don't make a story to these bad things. Only the bad things are there, and look what they are without story. And that's something.
Because who's deciding they're bad things?
Yes,
Actually.
yeah. And it's a complete other looking at these bad things when they are not a story. I'm hidden by him, and I'm alone from that, and he died, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's more clear when there is only the bad thing that is inside, and I think there is the bad thing first, and then comes the story. Like this, it felt, and I sit in this. I was in holidays for 2 weeks at the ocean, and there's a clearness.
Right.
And silence that's not here in the city so much. And in the night I wake up and sit with this feeling and only feel this sadness. The first feeling was sadness. And I sit and feel this sadness, and tears come, and I go in deeper and deeper in this sadness, and suddenly there was a picture of I was 1.5 years old. And there was a scene. I saw a scene with my mother and with a dead sister of mine.
Right.
And the first time I connect this sadness with the sadness of my mother when I was 1.5 years old.
Right.
And she was crying about the death of my little sister. It was dead after 6 weeks.
Right.
She stopped breathing.
Yeah.
And I was alone with my mother, and she cries and cries. And my mother told me a few years ago, you with 1.5 years said to me, "Mama, don't cry no more." And then I stopped crying.
Right.
And in this moment, I saw this this sadness from my mother and me, it was the same. It was all one. And it was so good. It was so sad and so good and so opened.
Real. It was real
was
because
real.
actually it happened, and
Yeah.
it created some lasting imprint, you can
Yes,
say. Yeah.
yes. And it was so good to feel that. It's crazy because it was a sad feeling, but it was good. And
But
because
this is how a healing happened, you see, because you looked carefully, because you were in a certain environment near the beach where it was calm and you felt good, basically, but then you had this sadness appearing, and maybe you thought, well, why do I have sadness? I'm at the ocean on holiday, blah, blah. Doesn't fit. But I think it's exactly the kind of moment, in fact, when we're ready to deal with something that's not so nice. Yeah.
yeah,
And actually, it's not so bad either. I mean, I'm not suggesting, of course, that it wasn't so bad that your sister died after 6
Yeah,
weeks,
it's
because,
okay.
of course, this is, on one level, it's tragic and very tough for your mother particularly. But in another way, it's very natural. We have to learn to accept all these things that happen, because constantly things like a baby dying after it's constantly happening, actually. And then, of course, we have strong judgments about it, and we say that's bad, and something like this. But it's unfortunately, life is not as nice as we would like it to be.
most time we want. Yeah.
They had just a day or two ago, they had a big celebration of 75 years of the end of the last war, the beginning of the end of the last war. And there were lots of stories from our old people who were remembering what happened, And of course, enormous numbers of people were killed in a very short time.
My grandpa's.
Yeah. And this sailor, his job was, he was in charge of one of these boats bringing the guys onto the beach. And he was saying, sometimes the guys would jump off the front when it was too deep. And then they had all kind of heavy equipment, and they would just drop like stones. So many people didn't even get to the beach. They were already dead from drowning. And when I read that, it's like, it's so strong, actually. Yeah. And yet, life is like that, also like that.
Every time. Yeah. It's the sadness I feel is not mine, but it's mine because I'm so connected with my mother at this time when I was so young.
Right.
And so I feel it was my sadness.
Right.
But I don't think it when I was adult that this was mine. But in this moment I feel it, and it's all good.
And maybe for years you were having moments where you felt some sadness without really understanding, why am I sad today?
Yes. Yes.
And now you know the reason, and probably that's a kind of healing.
Yeah.
And that happened because you were ready to go into that, what wasn't so nice.
Yes, and I go into it without the story I made now.
Right.
I will let it open, and it comes from inside. A story I don't know.
Right.
And I felt in this Enneagram, they say they are under this sadness there is another feeling, and at the end there is the black hole. They say the black hole we go through, and then we are
Totally
already
liberated and free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what the Enneagram is touched to me. I think in my life I've heard. I live with my grandma. She was from Ostpreußen, also from the east, where's Poland today, and she goes with her 3 children and pregnant alone with a ship to Denmark. And she told me since I was so little what there happened on this, wie nennt man das? Flucht.
On this one?
Escape.
Oh,
On this
escape.
escape.
Right, yeah.
She told me stories. Was what happened there, and
Right.
so I know from little that life isn't easy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't want to be this sad anymore. I want to have it. And when I go through, it's okay. I go through how it must be end.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
sadness must be end.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I think I'm searching. I begin to search to have this.
And you're, in a way, accepting what is.
Yes.
Because when we accept it, all kind of stuff can bubble up and appear.
Yes.
And very often some of the things which we judge as wrong or bad, we tend to suppress them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
And this
It's-
suppression doesn't work because it's still bubbling inside the suppression.
Yes.
And
You must pull and pull to hold it down.
Yeah,
You must
yeah.
more and more energy for that, and you have not the energy to be free.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
my longing.
Good. That's very good. Yeah.
But I want
And
to
you
tell.
right now in telling this story and telling about what happened, you actually feel joyful about it.
Yes,
Because it's in a way opposite to what you were doing before. Yeah?
yes. Yes.
Because
this is-
before you were probably not really ready to look at that, and you would rather stay up in the
Yeah.
special place.
Because the fear you get into and can never out.
Yeah.
It will be there forever. All this what happened will be there, and you will be there and burn forever. Yeah, it's a fear inside.
Yeah,
and
because
the,
this is we were given also this story. I mean, this was a sort of society story.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I read this anagram and think, oh, yes, this feels better. It feels true. It feels that can be the way.
Right.
To
Was
go.
this book from
Eli
Eli?
Jackson, yeah.
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 It's a good book.
It's
yeah.
a good book. I read some stories, in the internet, but they are only on the.
Probably more on the surface and more from psychological points.
Yes,
yeah.
genau. There's you are so, and make that, and then it's better. But that's not the way. Yes.
All right. Great. I'm very happy to hear all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy to find it. To find you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, wow. Yeah. So I'm sure we're in for a busy weekend. We'll start again now in the morning. What time?